Hello, my fellow aviators and my beloved mechanics. Welcome to my channel, which will be focusing on aviation and the issues ahead of us in both general aviation and commercial aviation. My name is Captain Robert, that guy Ryder. I was given that call sign by not by the FAA, but by my fellow aviators due to this incident that I'm about to talk about. This video is really a tribute to one of my fallen aviators, one of my students, Mr. Jerome Renck, who lost his life in June of 2019 in a fatal crash in Hawaii while he was the captain of a parachute jump plane. This accident was the worst accident since 2011. It took Jerome's life and the life of 10 other parachute jumpers. It's taken me a long time to come to grips with the loss of my student and my friend, and I apologize to Jerome and his family for taking this long to stand up for him. However, I'm going to start doing that now. I am a 30-year veteran flight instructor, and I never really planned to be a flight instructor that long, but I ended up loving teaching. And I love teaching the next generation of pilots that we have. With Jerome on this flight in Hawaii, I want to tell you a little bit about Jerome and what type of man he was and bring his story to life. Because in the FAA and the NTSB report, he is slandered, he is defamed, and no one has stuck up for him. When I first met Jerome, he was researching flight schools, and he had decided, hell or high water, he was going to attend my flight school. At the time, I had no room for Jerome at my flight school, but he said that he would sleep on the floor in my living room. I said that I didn't have time to work him into the training flights. He said he would just wait until there was time for him to go on training flights. With this kind of enthusiasm, I couldn't really say no to Jerome, and I didn't. As soon as I called him and let him know that he could start driving back out here from Florida, he was here in 3 days at my doorstep. He was sleeping on the floor in my living room for 6 to 8 months while I slowly worked him into a training program. Jerome was a very good student. He applied himself, he worked hard, he met standards. One thing that I really remember about Jerome the most was at the end of every training day, he would make dinner. And it would consist of boiled noodles and a can of raw tuna. He didn't even put in butter. There was no mayonnaise. It was just noodles and boiled noodles and a can of tuna. He invited me to eat dinner with him one time, and I did it once. And that was about it. But over the course of the year and a half that he was with me, we became good friends. We would go motorcycle riding up to Oak Glen. We would go out to lunches and dinners during his training on training flights to different airport restaurants. We even went down to the Mexico to go sailing on the Sea of Cortez when I had a sailboat down there. Jerome truly was one of my best friends, and I miss him dearly. All right, when Jerome left my flight school, he took a job. His first job was with an aerial survey company in St. George, Utah. He worked there for a year and did just fine. Then he briefly went to another company, I believe, before getting his job at Oahu Parachute Center. This was in Hawaii, and this was a dream job for Jerome. Most pilots dream of going with the airlines or maybe getting a corporate job on a Gulfstream 5, making lots of money and doing well. With Jerome, it was different. He loved aviation just for the sake of aviation. He loved nature. He loved being around people. Jerome was such an excellent guy that it just breaks my heart to have lost him. He wasn't in aviation for the money, but was for the love of aviation. He called me several times while he was at Hawaii and invited me out there to come visit him and go fly with him while he was doing his jump runs. To this day, I wish I had got out there sooner and that I could have been in the right seat with him, and I could have been his first officer, and he could have told me how to do everything and bossed me around. That would have been fair play. But unfortunately, on June 21st, 2019, Jerome was making his last flight of the day. He had 10 parachute jumpers in the back and himself up front, and he took off from Hawaii to just do a normal jump run. And what happened was that during takeoff, he lost the left engine. Now, in multi-engine operations, we all know that the left engine is critical. And for those of you without your multi-engine rating, the left engine is critical because if you lose this engine, the leverage arms on all the forces on the airplane are much worse than if you just lost the right engine. But Jerome, all the evidence in the investigation that the FAA and the NTSB had was that the left engine had failed. When Jerome took off, he got to maybe 200 feet. The engine had failed on him. He had a high nose-up attitude, low airspeed. The center of gravity of the airplane was at far aft as it could be, but it was still in limits. And that right engine, just in a heartbeat, took over that airframe and just rolled Jerome inverted. Within seconds, Jerome was inverted and then into the dirt. If this wasn't heartbreaking enough, the FAA and the NTSB saw an opportunity to create a false narrative and to push another policy that they wanted to do to further harm general aviation, well, aviation in general. What the NTSB did was they ignored the facts of the evidence on this accident, and instead of Jerome merely losing an engine on takeoff and having a VMC event, which even I couldn't fix, no aviator could fix, Jerome Renck was placed in an impossible situation. He wasn't able to save himself. He did not save those passengers, and it was a fatal accident. The NTSB decided to use this for political gain and decided to make this accident about bad flight instruction. They covered up all the evidence that they could, although in the report, on the next video, we'll be walking through the NTSB report and the evidence that's listed in that report. And we'll show case by case how it shows that the left engine failed on takeoff and it was a VMC event. The NTSB decided that since this was bad instruction, that they would not only come after me, but every other flight instructor out there. So now we have a policy with the FAA that any flight instructor that gets below a 70% on their pass rates, that flight instructor is held accountable for their students' performance on a check ride, that they are unsatisfactory flight instructor, probably having their license revoked or suspended, and that they're a safety risk to aviation. Can you imagine our young flight instructors having to go through this and having to face this where they could have, their lives totally ruined over something that they have no control over? The course of the next video that I'll be putting out will be walking through the false narrative that the FAA and the NTSB put forth and the criminal behavior that they have done against me in order to promote this. Now, the FAA and the NTSB, my fellow aviators, mechanics, we've known that they've been awful for many years. The attitude has been, hopefully they don't bother me, put our heads down, walk the other way. When we see another aviator getting probably ruined by these people, we turn the other way and we leave them alone. As part of my videos and part of my channel, I want to work on changing our culture. This is wrong, gentlemen. If we don't stand together, if we don't fight the FAA and the NTSB from falsifying reports, stealing documents, making false claims against us one by one, we're all going to fail. And I strongly believe that our next generation of pilots don't have a chance. Our airlines are about to collapse. I give it about 6 months to a year before they fail. I see general aviation in such decline. and just no hope in sight. I wish to change that, and if I can, I will. If I get beat up and destroyed by the FAA and NTSB, so be it. But in the next video I hope you watch, we'll walk through the falsified report that the NTSB put out on me. We'll walk through the criminal behavior that the FAA and the NTSB routinely engages in, and yet nobody says anything about it. And you know, I get it. You as an airline captain or a flight instructor, you can't say anything against the FAA. They will come out and crush you on the spot. I get that. Well, I'm going to try to be the face of aviation and take all the hits so that maybe the next generation of aviators will be there. Thank you so much, and I look forward to talking to you in the next video.